Hi, I'm Arshul from the National Young Leaders Fellowship, and I'm a Fellow of 2022. When I first started off in leadership roles, I used to view leadership, looking back now, very much like how a boss treats an employee. So even just my peers, I used to be the type of person who give out commands, who be like, okay, I need you to do this no matter what, even if you can't sleep tonight, get it done. So it was very much a very draconian way of leadership.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm from the National Young Leaders Fellowship and I'm a Fellow of 2022. I think it was just something that you go into, especially in like the school context, like primary school prefect kind of settings. It's just something you kind of find yourself in, and I think as I've grown and as I've developed, it became more of a concept to me. But when I first started out, I didn't really have a definition for it.
My journey started when I was volunteering with this organization called Mummy Yummy. So at that point, we were in a student-run group called Hope Givers, where we worked with Mummy Yummy to give out food to blocks with many elderly living alone or poor families living there. The incident that I heard about from the people who started the organization, they told me once that a group of volunteers used to visit this block, and this particular unit, they realized that a lot of the food packets that they had left the past few weeks remained there, and no one had come to claim them. They were very curious as to why the owner of the house hadn't come out for a few weeks now, and it was an elderly man living alone. At the same time, they also noticed a very disturbing smell emanating from the house. When they called the police, they opened the door and they realized that the elderly man had passed away, alone in his home with no one checking in on him. And his body had been left there decomposing for a few days at that point. So this story struck me because this is no way for someone to go. Having seen and experienced all that, I saw that there's really a lot that I can do in this space.
First thing that got me into sustainability was actually an event that was run by two of the other 2022 fellows who was doing it in like a school context. And they had a founder of Edible Garden Cities, which is an urban farm in Singapore, speak about food sustainability and how urban farms fit into the solutions. And because of that, I started getting interested in like urban farming and its potential for inclusive employment and environmental stuff, which led me to read about the food system itself, because that's very closely tied to urban farming. And I feel like when I was reading up on a lot of these, most of the resources didn't really have like a Southeast Asian angle to it, which is how I started putting out stuff, because I wanted to read about information that I felt was relevant to me and my food systems, my context and foodscapes, which is how like the blog came about, the Instagram came about, because as I was learning about these things, I wanted to, number one, bring people along with me on this journey, and number two, also value add to whatever information in that space. There I write about like food systems. I tried to bring in the Asian or Southeast Asian farming context, and recently I've been trying to cover more issues relating to like social issues among smallholder farmers and stuff.
Knowing the experiences I went through and knowing that I didn't want anyone else to grow up feeling the same way, I decided that the best way I can try to make a change was to join onepeople.sg as a volunteer. My first touch base with onepeople.sg was when I signed up to be a member of the planning committee of onepeople.sg Model United Nations. Most people, when they hear Model United Nations, they think about international debates, talking about international issues, but no. Why OPMAN is special is because all their topics are based on local issues regarding race and religion. Beyond that, they make sure that every youth that enter through the doors of the event itself leave having broadened their perspectives on race and religion.
At some point, I realized that apart from long form, which definitely has its perks in terms of comprehensiveness, you also need to have content that's a bit shorter form and content that is able to invite new audiences in like a less kind of heavy commitment way. And so the Instagram kind of started, and it also was like an easier way for me to post ad hocly. So I started that, experimenting with different formats also. Like I do cooking reels where I talk, and that's really to try to reach out to people who are watching food reels on Instagram but weren't necessarily interested in like agriculture or sustainability stuff.
When I was still practicing the more draconian style of leadership, I used to view that as a leader, I had to ensure that I didn't show any of my vulnerabilities. That, I realized, created a big distance between me and the people I used to work with. One day, I decided to try to sit down with some of my other fellow student leaders and just share with them the challenges that I was facing, share with them what were some of the feelings and emotions I was going through. And I realized that it really broke the ice between us, where they felt like they could trust me and I could trust them now. They went on to share about their own challenges, their own experiences, and how they felt as well throughout the whole journey.
Interestingly, I've become almost like a contact point for like sustainability stuff among my friends. So it's not only food sustainability stuff. Like I have juniors who recently was like, I'm very into textile sustainability. Do you have anything in terms of like resources or like groups or things to follow that I could look into? And I think it's nice kind of being able to refer people to resources that already exist, to communities that exist, because the environmental circle in Singapore is quite connected and quite well established. And so being able to invite more people to care about these causes, to participate in these discourse, I think is something that I'm quite happy to be able to do.
I realized that there's a power in sharing. It really forms this ability to form connections between us. So having displayed our vulnerabilities, it allows us to connect through these negative experiences we had. There was one day where one of my friends came to ask me about a project that they wanted to start, and they asked me for advice on how they could do so. It really further emphasized my belief in the ripple effect. Because of my actions, I was able to inspire others to want to make the same change, to bring forward what they have learned and seen to their own spheres of influence in their own communities.
Leading change to me is convincing people that it's possible, like whatever you're advocating for is possible, and because it's possible, it's worthwhile to put time and effort into trying to create that change. Because ultimately, if you don't believe that's on the table, if that's something that's possible, no one will ever invest the time and effort into working for it.